injuries are not an uncommon thing in college basketball. I think maybe the injuries and the amount of injuries your team is going through might qualify as uncommon. You're a team that's really been bitten by the injury bug over the last couple of years.
Yeah, we're up there this year. We've had 2 season-ending injuries and a couple of others, that kept kids out for a couple weeks at a time. But we had a torn Achilles tendon and a torn hamstring, 2 things that, you don't see very often, especially on the women's side. So to start out with a young roster and then have some kids get hurt and know that we're going to lose them for the entire season. We knew we were going to have to play young kids, but now we're going to have to not just play them but rely on them.
Coach, one of the themes that is sort of carried through over the course of the night, just talking to the coaches we've had, is the idea of building the faith and keeping the faith with your players. Last year down the stretch, I thought the thing that was really impressive about your team was that as the injuries mounted, as unfortunately some of the losses piled up, you watched those games and your team had a game plan and they came out and they executed and they believed, and eventually there were games where they just ran out of steam. But your kids played hard all year long.
I thought we played hard from start to finish in every game we stepped on the floor last year. And you're right, the injuries mounted. And when you are in the middle of a losing streak, it's impressive the way our kids continue to believe, to prepare, to buy into the game plan that we had every night. And they went out and executed. We had some games down the stretch last year where we competed with top half teams in our conference, the top 25 teams in the PSAC West. And we competed with them for a half or for 3 quarters. And then you're right, we kind of ran out of gas. We ran out of players to be able to sub in. We would have 5 or 6 that could really compete at that level. And then, going to our bench, we had nights where we were playing a top 25 team and we had 2 walk-ons on the floor. And to their credit, they kept battling, they kept fighting. We held on as long as we could. I think we had young kids last year who had to grow up fast. Some freshmen last year that got thrown into the fire quickly and gained a lot of experience. So if I take one positive from last season, it's that we had a ton of on-court experience for everybody in our program. So those freshmen that didn't see as much success last year but spent a lot of time on the floor, them coming back as sophomores this year, they don't feel like sophomores. They feel more like upperclassmen with the amount of time that they've spent on the floor. Do
you feel like you had to do some soul-searching as a coach after last year and going into that offseason thinking, okay, what can we do to try to build some more of that depth? Or what can we do to try to turn things around, not let something like this happen again?
I'll tell you, a losing streak will make you question everything about yourself as a coach. And going into the offseason last year, it was, what did I not do, or what should I have done better, or what could I have prepared for more? I knew that going into this year that we had signed a great freshman class. The 5 freshmen that we brought in are all ready to compete on this level from day one. We knew that we had to go out in the offseason and get one transfer that was ready to be impact from day one with a little maturity, a little more experience. But we spent a lot of time just focused on our recruiting and kind of going back to everything that we had told the kids all season of it's, buy into what we're doing. Like, what we're doing is not wrong. So myself and my assistant kind of convincing each other that what we're doing wasn't wrong. It was just that we didn't quite have enough kids to get the result that we wanted.
Well, you mentioned you have 5 freshmen coming in this year, and I think when I counted right before I came here, you had 8 freshmen or sophomores on the roster this year. It's a really young roster. A lot of your older players, like you said, are banged up right now too, so they're going to get some playing time. But that's also kind of exciting because you have these athletes that are sort of unmolded clay, and you can take them and you can see how they develop, and it adds a little bit of excitement, a little bit of intrigue to the season.
I think there's going to be games this season where we're really, really good, and there's going to be games where we're really, really bad. We're going to kind of ride the freshman wave, the underclassmen wave. Our sophomores, they're young, but again, they spent a lot of time on the floor last year. They gained a lot of experience with all the injuries that we went through. So, our sophomores, they're sophomores academically, but they spent a lot of time on the floor, and I think they're ready to step up. One sophomore that stepped up into a captain role this year just because of the amount of time that she had to lead last year. So, you can see the gray hair growing by the second.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Especially when we have a practice like we did tonight. They frustrate me on some days, and then there's other days where you see the light come on, and it's really exciting to to know that these kids are going to be around for 3 or 4 more years, and they're going to be the future of our program.
Let's talk about some of those sophomores real quick, not to leave anybody out. But India Bobo was a girl that last year she played basically as long as her injury would allow her to play. And when she did play, she had some moments of brilliance. And then a player that I think a lot of our fans really grew to like watching play, and who I really enjoyed watching play, Yasmin Lewis. You talk about a wing that goes to the dirty areas, that rebounds, that can score. That's just a fun player to watch, and those are players that did a lot for your program last year.
Oh, yeah. Yaz is a high-motor kid, and when we go out and recruit, we want to recruit players who just bring that energy and the no-quit in her. She battled kind of some nagging injuries as the season went on last year, and she just kept playing hard. India, I think she was on track to be one of the best freshmen in the league before she got hurt. As a starting point guard, she stepped in and kind of took that spot from preseason last year. And if you followed our season at all, you would see that when she wasn't on the floor, we struggled to get wins. With her on the floor, leading up to Christmas break last year, I think we were playing some of the best basketball that we had played all year. So knowing that we're going to get her back this year, knowing that we're going to have her leading us at point, and she came back even more improved. She used that time that once she got healed up right after the season, she used the spring and the summer to really improve in some areas that she struggled in early on.
Veteran leadership has been sort of a hallmark of the program that you've built. You talk a lot about it. And some of our fans may not have heard you speak about it, but this was a program that when you first got here, you were the one that had to do the yelling for show up for conditioning on time, do this way, do this that way. Now you've got players that yell at the other players for you. But really what I'm talking about is they're building accountability. They're building discipline in your program. And I think that's a testament to what you and Coach Cooper have done is you've found veterans and you've developed them to sort of be proxies of yourselves whenever it comes time for these other activities.
Absolutely. Jordan McKelja and Taylor Moltz are a part of the freshman class, the first freshman class that we recruited. So my first season, as we were going through some struggles, those two committed here, signed here, and bought into wanting to be the class that helped us rebuild. So, they came here when most people really couldn't see the vision that we had, and they bought into it. They believed in it. They have now been here with us for 4 seasons. Jordan has been a captain from day one and has been a vocal leader, a leader by example. Taylor has slowly grown into that, coming from a smaller high school program. And she had a huge adjustment coming in as a freshman, and now she's that senior upperclassman that's helping this new class of freshmen to try to adjust to college basketball.
You can see the change over the 4 years she's been here, how much better Taylor Moltz has gotten. She turned into she's always been a good shooter, but she turned into a much better all-around guard last year in her junior season.
Oh, yeah. The improvement that she's had from freshman year to now is so fun to watch. With her skill set on the floor, she's developed. She can take people off the dribble a little bit more. She's not just a standstill shooter. Her defense has gotten drastically better. Still something that we talk about on a daily basis in practice. Her rebounding is better. She was a kid who always was going to put in the work, and now she is starting to be vocal. So to see her grow up and to start holding other people accountable has been fun to watch. She's that kid who, again, she bought into the vision from her freshman year and came here as a walk-on player and is now going to leave our program as one of the best shooters in our program history and as a captain, as a senior. So really proud of the progress that she's made.
I remember seeing a program on leadership one time talking specifically about sports, and I thought this was interesting, and not everybody may agree with it, but I thought it was an interesting point nonetheless. Somebody said, show me a guy that a coach says leads by example, and I'll show you somebody that's just doing their job anyway. That it's not enough to just say, well, that's a leader by example. So what, they show up on time, they work hard, they study the playbook. That's not enough to be a leader. To be a leader, you've got to be able to hold people accountable. You have to be vocal. And you're seeing that in those athletes.
And Taylor's not just showing up doing her job. She's there. She's there early. She's putting in the extra work. So for her, leading by example is not just doing what she's asked or not just doing what's asked in the drill. She puts in the work in the off season. She put in the work in the summer. She's a kid who's come back in a little bit better physical shape every season. So she's a great example for a freshman right now. If you want to be where she is as a senior. If you want to be that starting wing who's a great shooter that people can't leave, follow the blueprint that Tay set out.
Let's talk about that Division I transfer that you did bring in, Khadijah Dixon coming in. It's not often that you get a Division I transfer that led her team in scoring the year before, but that was the case with her. She averaged about 11 points a game last year. What does Khadijah bring?
She's a versatile player. She, regardless of the level or what, recruiting for us, we're looking for people who can play multiple positions, who can step in and, guard on the perimeter, guard a post, go rebound. She brings ball handling. She brings a great jumper right inside the three-point line. She brings some maturity. But the biggest thing for us right now that she brings is her energy. She is our team hype man. She gets everybody else going. And when in practice, she is going to compete on every play. So whoever she's guarding, she's making that person better. She's talking trash in practice. She's trying to get people going. Today, once I had to kind of scream at the team and get them going, it was her voice that was kind of echoing what I was saying. So to have her as a transfer, and she actually redshirted. So academically right now, she's a senior. So to bring in a transfer is awesome, but to bring in somebody, especially with how young our team is, she brings some maturity, some leadership, just another upperclassman voice in our huddle. We talked about earlier with some of the other coaches about difficult starting schedules, and it's certainly not going to get much harder than what you had this past weekend when you went to 9th-ranked University of Maryland. But you opened the season with this tournament at IUP. You've got Alderson Broadus and Ohio Valley. Ohio Valley. Wow, that's good. I remember the schedule. I put it in. I should remember it. But there were some flashes of things in that Maryland game. Obviously, you're playing against competition that's very, very, very good. But your team showed some flashes of things that you think will translate over the course of the year. Well, we played hard from start to finish. And the thing that we talked about before we went out of the locker room was compete regardless of the scoreboard. We knew that going into that game we were physically overmatched. Their starting two guard was a 6'5" kid, and our kid matching up was 5'6". So just the physical differences, we knew that on paper going in. We knew that their athleticism, their length was going to cause us some problems. But I was so proud of our kids because they stuck to our game plan, and we said people are probably going to think we're crazy because we started and we said on our first made basket we're going to press them because in any other game on our schedule, that's what we're going to do. So we said we're focused on us. We're not focused on, the other team. We wanted it to be a great experience, and I think it really was for our kids to play in that arena, to play in front of that kind of crowd, to get to, stay in a nice place and eat nice meals and, have a kind of a nicer road trip than we normally have. Super cool experience. Awesome to get the Clarion name out in that, kind of market. We had our president and our athletic director come down and watch. We had a couple of alumni there, a great crowd of family and friends behind our bench. We had almost 80 people on our pass list for that game. So with the other people that came in that weren't on our pass list, 100 fans sitting behind our bench. And, we don't normally get that at home. So to have that type of support, it was super cool for our players to see that they've got those people behind them. And, again, we competed from start to finish. We came away with a lot of positives watching the film, things that we had corrected from a scrimmage a week before. So to see those freshmen, scrimmage a week before and then go to Maryland and correct some mistakes, hopefully we'll use this week and we'll improve the same amount that we did in week one. Coach, I'll leave you with this then. You mentioned fans. If there was any justice in this world, would your parents have already won Fans of the Year award at the Ernies? Oh, absolutely. They travel further than anybody. My parents support me. Nobody else is driving a pickup truck from Alabama to come watch you play. My parents support me wherever I am. They've been driving. When I started coaching, I was 6 hours from home. I was 10 hours from home. I was 15 hours from home. Now here I'm 12 or 13, depending on if my dad's driving or my mom's driving. She gets here a little bit faster than my dad does. But they're going to support me regardless of where I live and regardless of how far away it is. They're always going to be there. So I really appreciate it. With all due respect to Rob Lawrence, I think the early leaders for Fans of the Year might be Jana's parents. Coach Ashley, thank you so much for joining us.